for you, that is Infosys Springboard portal. First and foremost, please go to your profile. There is a circle icon here. There is an edit profile option. This is very important for us to account your learnings. I repeat once again. I think it's my voice is clear. It's loud and clear and audible.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it is breaking, I request you to please check your internet uh, access. Yeah. Okay. So here, this is the registration detail. As I was saying, once you log in with your credentials, please go to your profile. That is the circle icon on the right top corner. Please pay attention to this. This is very important step. Ensure your name is correctly there, your first name and last name, because this is going to reflect in your certification. And you can showcase and project your certifications in your education profiles or anywhere. So please ensure that this is correctly done. If it's updated, great. If it's not, then please check once again. There's no harm in rechecking once again. The state, when you go to state, irrespective of which state you belong to, since Jobs for Her Foundation is in Karnataka, please type in K here, and automatically it'll prompt you to select Karnataka. Similarly, just type in Bangalore B, and automatically the city reflects as Bangalore here. So please select it from the drop down, irrespective of which state or which city you belong to. It doesn't matter. Please ensure the state and city is correctly in place. You have selected correctly as Karnataka and Bangalore. Similarly, as when you type that correctly, when you select it from the drop down menu correctly, just type in JOBS in capital letter, jobs. Automatically, Jobs for Her Foundation Bangalore also will reflect under the drop down menu. Please select this because we have around 348 participants who have registered. Registration is first thing. You will have to accept the terms and conditions and fill in the registration details correctly. Without that, if you have directly logged into with your Google ID or Gmail ID, it doesn't help. So please ensure you register to the platform with the correct ID, accept the terms and conditions, and mention whether you are a learner and you are above 18 years, and then please fill in the registration details correctly. Affiliation can be other, it doesn't matter. Grade based on whatever qualification you have, you can select that. Given your 10-digit mobile number correctly, just in case you forget your credentials, with the OTP, you can retrieve your credentials. Where did you hear Infosys Springboard about? You can put it as Infosys or Jobs for Her Foundation or wherever you heard it from. Okay, channel partner is not applicable, so you can just put it as none. And please, you can deselect or select register as a volunteer, and you're saving your profile details. So click on done to save your profile details. It's a humble request to please recheck your profile. I will not be able to check your profile. I'll be able to show you how you can reset your profiles. So please do that. Uh, Yeah. And secondly, when you come to home page, similarly, go to your profile. Before we start the session, this is very important because all our efforts in completing the courses and securing the certifications will be shown in our profile. So this is very important. So once you're done with the profile, go to achievements, see whether you have received your scorecard for the course completion. And since if you have also taken the proctored certification, please ensure that you have the scorecard for the proctored certification too. Okay, there are two certifications that you need to do, which I'll be sharing at the end of this session today. First thing is artificial intelligence, a foundation certification, which has three prerequisites. That is introduction to AI, introduction to natural language processing. Sorry, you need to be correct with the spelling also. Yeah. So when you just type in artificial intelligence here, in the content type, looking for certifications, you will get the artificial intelligence related certification here, course certification. This is the certification that you are supposed to complete. Since we have already completed introduction to artificial intelligence, deep learning, and natural language processing, you are good to go. Complete the prerequisites, earn the course completion certificate for all these three prerequisites, and then take up the you will have the option to take the certification. Whenever you take the certification, ensure you have a good internet connection. There is a camera available, and you score 75% and above. Please give it a try. uh, don't just give it a try. Go through the content thoroughly, the pre-contents thoroughly, and then give it a try. Because if you try in one attempt and you fail, or you could not clear, I would not use that word. So in case you cannot clear it in the first attempt, you will have to wait for 15 days again. So please don't let that happen in the first shot. Let it be positive. Let you hope you get the favorable results. So ensure you are thorough with the pre-contents and then take up the certification. I hope this is clear to all of you. If I can have a response by a thumbs up or a yes on the chat box, that will be helpful. Thank you so much. And we are seeing promising participation from all of you. It's encouraging for us as well to motivate ourselves to learn as well, and the same to facilitate all of you as well. So you know that AI, the topics that we are dealing with from past 2 weeks, it's in everybody's lips now, and it's on fingertips. We use AI and its features day in and day out. It's being increasingly prevalent in everyday's life, right? So whether we use GPS systems, or whether we use phone unlocking systems, or whether we use chatbots, or even be it if you want to look out for a restaurant or a hotel or anywhere, or be it a reverse and parking or shopping, whatever it is, everything has AI in our day-to-day life. So it is the most talked about topic when it comes to technology and innovation. At the same time, though these technology and innovations is booming, we have a lot of challenges we need to take into ethical considerations also. So sustainable use of technology is very, very important. So that is also we have to keep that also in mind. Though AI is shaping our future around, though we are getting inspiration, we are aspiring to learn more on the technology. At the same time, there is a lot of contemplation too surrounding AI. Though it promises great opportunities for us, we have to be responsible when we use this power of AI. So with that, I will leave the session on computer vision to Aishwarya Rajiv, who took up AI sessions as well. As always, pen and paper uh, does not go away, though the technology is there. So have a pen and paper with you. Make notes. There are any questions, please make a note, and please post it on the chat box as well. I think I'll leave the session to Aishwarya.
Yeah, thank you,
Please,
Prithvi.
if there are any questions, just please put it on the chat box. We'll attend it later so that we don't break the flow of the session.
So thank you, Prithvi, and Myself, Aishwarya Rajiv. I will be the facilitator for computer vision. So let me share my screen.
All of the material that has been shared, that has been explained today, is readily available within the platform. As I keep telling in every session, please don't go through just the links that we provide. Try to explore more and more content that is available and take the complete benefit of the platform that you have. So, any questions, please make a note. I'll come back to all of your doubts. Mona, Avinash has also asked. Pratibha has also asked. I'll come back to those questions. Please hold on to it. And stay tuned till the end of the session because there is something interesting that I'm going to tell you at the end of the session. So just because it's a time up 12:30, please do not log off. Stay tuned till the session gets over. Yeah. Thanks, Aishwarya. Over to you.
Yeah, yeah. So, good morning, all. We will go to introduction to computer vision. Hope my screen is visible. Prithvi, can you tell screen is visible?
Yes, it is visible. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So here we are going to learn the basics of computer vision and we'll understand what the business value or what it will provide for solving the real-time problems. Using computer vision, how to solve the problems and how we can use it in business. So that we are going to learn in this course. And also we will understand what is computer vision in a wide range of real-time examples and also the domains and the concepts and techniques used in the process. So here, after learning the course, you will have an understand the adoption, why we are using computer vision in various domains, and also the business process transformation happened after using the computer vision, and the various concepts and techniques involved for working computer vision system, and we can decide whether to how the build or buy approach for implementing the computer vision as a solution. So why computer vision? Before going for that, am I audible? Somebody is telling me not audible.
Yes,
Yeah,
Aishwarya, please
yeah.
check your speakers or
Okay,
your
thank you.
internet connections. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the response. So, computer vision, actually, what is computer vision? It's a combination of computer science and artificial intelligence. So, you already learned what is artificial intelligence. Now, we are going to learn another field of study, that is computer vision, and it's a combination of computer science along with the artificial intelligence. So, here it will enable the computers to analyze the images or even the video data. So why we are using computer vision is it is a just to make use of computers to analyze the video image or even the normal images, and we can unlock a multitude of applications across industries. It can be autonomous vehicles or even facial recognition systems and all. So computer vision actually it's a field of study within artificial intelligence itself, which enables the computers to intercept and extract information from where, from images and videos, like how we are as a human we will do the from a human vision, how we will extract the things. When we look at some things from our eye, we will extract something. So we will make the computers to intercept and extract images from the images and videos, like how a human vision is working. So to extract that one, it involves developing algorithms and techniques to extract the meaningful information from visual inputs. So that is all about the definition of computer vision. Hope you understood what you mean by computer vision. It's like a human vision. So when human vision, what it is happening, we will using our vision, we will extract various images in and around or from the environment. Likewise, here we are going to make use of the computers to extract the images what it is looking. But to extract it, we need some techniques or algorithms. So is it clear for everyone what's the definition of computer vision? Yeah. So why we are using computer vision? So when we are just seeing the camera, everywhere now surveillance camera is there. So just imagine the camera is altering the cops when it spots an accused. So instead of just recording the moments, what it is doing, it is analyze the situation, whether it is accusing something. So it is analyzing the situation as well as alerting the cops. So that is one advantage of using this computer vision. Then when normally a machine performs security check in an airport, but when the visitors or passengers can be scanned when they walk in through an airport or railway station, so that is also done using computer vision. So instead of just recording, it is doing something or it is analyzing some images. So another usage is, can a machine perform a surgery? So if a machine is capable of looking at the environment and able to understand the situation, like how human beings are looking something and understanding the situation, here the machine is looking the environment and trying to understand the situation, and it can respond like a human. So computer vision technology is nowadays very, very important part of AI, and it aids in building a machine with the ability to look at an image or video, to understand it and to respond it. So here you can see various applications of computer vision in various domains. So in agriculture, automotive, fashion design, finance, healthcare, manufacturing, insurance, sports, retail, surveillance, everything we are using computer vision techniques. So in detail, I will tell you one by one. So we'll go for retail. So in case of retail industry, computer vision we are using, and we can take the example of Amazon Go. So Amazon Go is a walkout store, and when you're usually going for a supermarket or even somewhere for shopping, we have to wait in long queues or for checkout or billing of the items. So here using computer vision and also with the help of deep learning. Last week you learned that topic. So along with computer vision and deep learning with the sensors, the computer will identify the items picked from whichever shelf, because each of the shelf will be having the product detail along with the rate. So whichever shelf the person is picking, using computer vision, it will identify, and along with deep learning and sensors, it can identify the items purchased from the shelf, and what all items is added to the carts, and charge the Amazon account. So here the person should have an account, and when the customer logged into the Amazon Go app, it can walk into the store, pick the products one by one, and just walk out. No need to wait for any queues or anything for billing purpose or something. So the receipt will be sent to the app, and it will be deducted from the Amazon account. So this is done, or this is implemented in Amazon Go using this technology, that is computer vision.
And let me know.
Hope you understood
If there is a no
this
problem
part.
with them, means it's okay if they are attending. Otherwise, if the candidates are in waiting room, means it will be issue, right?
So next is in social life. So nowadays our day-to-day activities, we are using computer vision. So you can just look out, like Google Lookout is a app which is using this technology. So this app is assisting visually challenged people in identifying the objects around them. Have you heard about the Google Lens?
Okay, Priti. That's
Yeah.
fine.
So
Thank you.
Google Lens is different and Google Lookout is different. Actually, both are identifying the things, but Google Lens, what it will do is whenever we are asking something, then only it will identify or it will give you the answer. Whereas in Google Lookout, the app itself
No,
will
no.
be like
Like
it's
here,
more
its
user
question
friendly
is
or more
computer
friendly with
vision,
the
right?
people. Like
Computer vision in
whichever
social life.
things it is
Okay.
seeing, everything it will
In case of
identify
Google and the
as well as
developed
it
web
will
vision
give
technology, it
the
has
comments,
visually
so that
challenged people in
if a
identifying the
person is
objects around
visually
them with the help of
challenged
smartphone.
person, like he
Okay,
can't
that
see anything,
smartphone will be
using this app
always,
it he can
yeah, it's a
what even
WebEx
see
link
the
and not a
surroundings,
Zoom
or
link.
the app will tell
So you
what
have
all
to go
things are
through the
there in the
browser.
surroundings.
No,
Even
listen
if some
first,
people
listen.
are there,
Go
what's
through
the
the browser,
emotions of the people,
join the
everything will
WebEx
be
link and rename
identified and
yourself.
will be given to the
Okay,
user.
okay,
So
and
it's also
okay,
it's different from Google
huh,
Lens. So Google
huh,
Lookout is another application which
exactly,
is using
exactly.
computer vision. Now, the computer vision is
Yes,
also
yes.
used in
Whoever joined from the
automotive.
browser, it
So
is
it is
showing
used in
unverified.
Waymo. Waymo actually it's
Huh,
a
I'll ping you it.
short form. It is way forward in mobile. So Waymo means some like self-driving cars. It's developed by Google, and these cars are used for rides. So Waymo uses radar, lidar, and vision technologies to know what objects are around it. So any obstacles are there near the car, it will identify that and it will give the alert to the user and how far the object are, and it will predict what to do next. So here the riders can just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride, and the car or the computer vision technology
I'll
embedded
pin
in
them.
the
Copy
car
pin.
will look everything, and it will what give the up to date actions.
Hinting
So
them.
here computer vision is also used in healthcare. So we can see accurate diagnosis can be done using computer
The
vision as
question
well
and
as
answers
machine
are
learning. So in
టెన్షన్ గా
machine
ఉంటాయి.
learning also
200
some
300 మంది జాయిన్
algorithm we are
అవుతారు
using.
అవన్నీ
So it will
కోఆర్డినేట్ చెయ్యాలి.
diagnose what
అది
is the
ఎటు ఎటు అయినా
symptoms or
తప్పు
ailments
లింక్ వెళ్ళినా
accurately.
ఎవరికైనా
So
హెల్ప్ అది
using deep
బయట
learning
పబ్లిక్ తో
also we can
సంబంధం
do.
కదా.
But here the computer
అది
vision
కన్సల్టెన్సీ
systems,
కంపెనీ
it is
లాంటిది.
used to analyze the medical
పబ్లిక్
images.
తో
It can be X-ray or scan, CT scan or ultrasound images, and it will be giving you accurate result by eliminating any chance of false diagnosis. So in the healthcare also, along with machine learning, deep learning technologies, we are using computer vision to diagnose the uh, symptoms or ailments. Then here in medical research, it will assist to a large extent by identifying various patterns from the history of the patient, and it can result in quicker and earlier diagnosis of ailments. So like machine learning, we will give the pattern, like we will feed it with the history of the patient scan report and all, and the computer vision can quickly give identify the pattern of behaviors or movements in patients, and it relate with the recovery process. It can suggest the doctor what to make a quicker recovery process. So these are the application in healthcare, and another is in surgical simulation and assistance also it is used, and it is used along with the augmented reality. Hope you know what is augmented reality. That means you can see in the image itself the person is wearing that device, and using the augmented reality technique he can do the he will be trying to do the surgeries. So here also that computer vision or the augmented reality is having that embedded with the computer vision to create simulations for the surgeries under various specialization, because the doctor directly he can't experiment with the patient. So before that, if the computer vision is there along with augmented reality, it will help to train the doctor better and rely on camera images earlier, like. So the next one is the application of computer vision in agriculture. So plant phenotyping. So what do you mean by plant phenotyping, it is just a quantitative measurement of the structural and functional properties of the plants. So you can analyze using computer vision the health and adaptation of the plants to its environment. That means each of the plants, sometimes some plants won't grow in certain environment. So how the health of the plant, adaptation to the new environment, everything can be learned or even predicted based on this computer vision technology. Then plant health monitoring is also done using this, like preventing and controlling of weeds, plant diseases or pests, whatever. Then even not only the plants in agriculture, the cattle health also is monitored by the CV technology. So here it will analyze the cattle health based on its behavior and movement, because sometimes the cattle is not moving, it is having some ill health and all, it will detect, and it's not active like that, it will detect and it will alert to the user or to the farmer or whatever. And it is also used for grading of agricultural produce. So here you can see two types of items, and just it will sort the plant based on the quality of the produce. So it can visually see or identify, the computer itself can identify what's the quality of the plant of the or the product, whether it is fruit or vegetable, whatever, and it will give the correct suggestion. So this one is used for grading. Then cultivation land maintenance. So here managing the health of the soil by controlling the irrigation activities, clearing rocks or other non-degradable waste out of land, everything can be done using this technology. So these are all used in the agriculture. Now comes computer vision in the sports. So in sports you can see whenever the some sports is going on, using computer vision in the TV itself, when you are watching the match and all, you can see some they will analyze, and the position and motion of the players, it will be again given or again tracked, and it will be displayed. So that is happened because of computer vision, which will analyze the position of each of the players and how they are moving, and they also analyzing the tactics. And it will help in or improving the referee decisions. So here the players or objects will be the detecting events. So one example is Hawkeye system used in tennis, then cricket and football. It will track the ball and predicts its trajectory motion. So here instead of a human or a referee is making a decision, this computer vision itself can do better decisions by tracking it accurately. So this technology is also used in sports and improve the training, like recognizing activity patterns and analyzing the performance. So in case of gymnastics, the system could look into the performance of gymnast and prepare a report on which all areas he need improvements, which all areas he needs strength, etc. So everywhere we are using nowadays this computer vision technologies. So improving viewers experience, this is what I told you, like when we are watching something, the automatic narration or captioning can be done, which will enhance the viewers experience, or it will make viewers more attracted to watch the match. So when a match is being broadcast, virtual marks are drawn on the field. Hope you saw that during the matches, and for the viewers to follow the game easily. Have you experienced this one?
I think we all can completely relate to this, especially when the match is going on and the player is supposed to be out, so we'll be supporting one team. So I think we can completely relate to this example, right?
Yeah. So all these things are happening with the help of this technology, that is computer vision. So that is in sports, and even in manufacturing we are using for predictive maintenance. So predictive maintenance means before that one we are predicting so and so things will happen in the future, and we will take the correct action to maintain it. That is known as predictive maintenance. So here a vision enabled machine can be used in proactive inspection of the machines during the manufacturing to prevent any downtime during the machine failures. The next is package inspection. So here vision enabled machines can be deployed whenever you are the packing or the quality inspection is going on during the package. So inspection is done in perfection. Like human beings, sometimes they will make errors, but here in case of computer vision, during the package it will see here in the robot, it is cross checking each and every points. So whenever the human is missing anything, that will be not done by this computer vision, and it can what make the more perfect packing during the delivery of the goods. And it is safe work environment. So vision enabled machine can report any threat or potential in the work environment, and thereby promoting. That means before occurring only somewhere some thing is happening, some threat is going to happen, it can analyze using the vision technology, and it can alert the user so that it will promote a safe work environment. So all these are the things in manufacturing. And next is how it is applicable for visually challenged people. So a software engineer, actually this was introduced by Chieko Asakwa, a software engineer. She has lost her sight during an accident at the age of 14, and she want to support visually challenged people when she came to experience that one in her real life. So it started with developing digital braille system in late 90s. One second. So, after that, online homepage reader later, and in the mid 20s, she worked with the NAVCO project and developed a cognitive assistance for visually challenged people through a mobile application. So one of the features of this is it recognizes people around who are approaching, like what I told you in Google Lookout, in which mood they are, and this helps to get more social. So this is also done because of this computer vision technology, and she created a world where visually challenged folks can be independent. Now, in case of surveillance cameras, China has built the world's biggest camera surveillance network using this AI system, and it can identify an individual along with the details like where they are coming and who are they, and connecting with who all they are connected. With a span of 1 week, they will get the details. So this is also possible with the help of computer vision technology. Then other than the applications what we discussed already, we have the computer vision used in Google Photos, and the photos get organized wherever, like places, people, that also you can experience in your mobile phone. So you can arrange according to the places, how they visited, which are people or who are always having you're related to you, your family, all those things. So that is happening here. And OCR, or optical character recognition. So when the handwriting is not understood, just you can use an OCR for interpretation of handwritten and text by computers. So the number here you can see the image. It's not whatever the number is written, the camera will detect. So here the mobile camera it will have that computer vision technology to visualize the image like 9594, and it will detect that one and it will display. So these are other applications of computer vision. Then in fashion technology, this is also happening in our
that
day-to-day
would
life.
be
We will
come
try
later
out
and journey
outfits
of
virtually
picking the product
when before buying a
through
product,
LinkedIn
and
live
even
event in now
finance,
11:30.
handwritten checks
Huh.
or legal documents are digitized.
No,
So customer authentication is performed using face recognition. Then, in case
no,
of
no, we can't join
insurance
there, right? We are now
submission
we are
and
in this
verification, Lenskart for
importation.
yeah, that
And
is
one
another
more RTC
example.
also
In
going on
Lenskart, when we are
parallelly.
buying the spectacles, you can
Huh.
do it like
Huh.
different frames you
We are
can try
having
out
speaker session,
using
right?
this
So,
technology.
huh.
Then insurance submission and verification of visual proofs of the incidents
Okay.
online.
Okay.
It made this insurance
Okay.
claiming process faster and easier. So
Yeah,
all
you can
these
bring that.
helps
Huh.
for what applications or various uses of computer vision. Hope you understood the applications
Hmm.
of computer vision in our day-to-day life. Is
I
it
just
clear
want
to
to share
everyone?
one small incident here as well, participants.
Yeah.
I actually visited a hospital, a cancer hospital, an oncology hospital. Since the patient was so weak and his veins were not visible, through
Okay.
a device they could find out the veins in the patient, and they were able to extract the blood for testing the blood counts in the patient. So that was something interesting that I observed
ప్రయాణ
recently,
రోజు
and that
పెట్టేస్తాను
was
సెలవు
with the help of computer
మరి
vision.
ప్రయాణ రోజు
So I
పెట్టేస్తే
mean,
శుక్రవారం
technology is so advancing nowadays
మొన్న
that
శుక్రవారం
it
మనం
is
ఆయన
used
వచ్చేటప్పుడు
everywhere in
ఆ
every
రోజు పెట్టేసాను సోమవారం పెట్టేస్తాను
industry
మంగళవారం
for that
పెట్టేస్తాను
matter.
Yeah. Thank you, Priti. Thank you for sharing that. And hope all of you understood what is computer vision and the applications. Yeah.
అంటే
Now,
మాది వర్క్ ఫ్రమ్
what is
హోమ్
computer
ఫ్లెక్సిబిలిటీ
vision?
ఆఫీస్ కాబట్టి యూ ప్లీజ్
It's
స్కాన్
like
అకార్డింగ్లీ
understanding
వెళ్ళి
how,
ఓటేయండి
like
వచ్చి వర్క్
human
చేయండి
vision
అన్నట్టుగా
system.
మెయిల్ వచ్చింది
So,
మనకు లేదనుకో వెళ్ళిన వాళ్ళు
understand
అలాగే
how
ఇన్సల్ట్
vision
చేస్తారు
is processed in human, how
మామూలుగా
like
మీకు
when we
ఇచ్చినట్టు
are
ఇవ్వలేదు సెలవు
just viewing
ఏంటో
something and the complexity associated with it.
ఆంధ్ర ఎలక్షన్స్
So
అయినా
here,
ఎలక్షన్కి వెళ్తున్నామంటే
sometimes
ఇస్తారంట
complexity will
అసలు మాకు
happen
దానికి ఎవరైనా
when
నాకేం
we are
ఇస్తారులే
talking
నేను
about
అడిగే
this
బేరం
one. So
నేను
when we
లీవ్
look into
పెట్టేసాను
objects, do not look at the object. We are not at all
మొన్నే
looking
20
only
అన్న
the particular object. We will
ఎంఎల్ఏది
just
లాస్ట్
have
ఇయర్
a sight of
మొన్నే జరిగింది
what all things are surrounded.
అంతే
So
నేను అందులోనే
object
వెళ్తాను కదా
details
ఆఫీస్కి
along with the cognitive
నేను ఫ్రీ
details
బస్ లోనే వెళ్తాను
provided by your brain. So when
అసలు
you are just
ఆడైతే
looking at
కొత్తలో
your
బాగా
laptop
ఆధార్
now,
కార్డ్ అడిగాడు ఈ మధ్యన అసలు
you
ఆధార్
can
కార్డ్ కూడా
see
అడగట్లే
what all
బస్ లో
things are around that while
డేట్
you are
అదేంటి
not at
ఏరియా
all
చెప్తే
seeing only
టికెట్
laptop
ఇచ్చేస్తున్నాడు అంతే
but
అసలు
other
అంటే నేను
things also.
పట్టుకెళ్తున్నాను అనుకో
Likewise, human
టికెట్
vision
ఇస్తారు
is like when
టికెట్
we look
లేకుండా
into
మొత్తం
objects,
టికెట్
you
ఇస్తున్నాను
do not only
కానీ అది ఆధార్
look
డబ్బులు
at the
అనేది
object
అడుగుతాడు
alone,
ఆధార్ అడిగాడు అనుకో ఆధార్
because our brain
చూపించమని ఎవరు
will give
చూపించమంటలేదు
like
కండక్టర్ కూడా
cognitive details are
తట్టుకోలేకపోతున్నాడు
there
ఏడీసీ
which will analyze the
ముందుకు
other
ఎక్కేస్తున్నారు
objects
దొరకడానికి
surrounding. So here you can
మొత్తం లేడీస్
take an example like a
కర్ణాటక ఆధార్
checker
ఉండదు
illusion. So it is published by Edward H. Edelson, so who is a professor. So here uh, you have to
ఇప్పుడు అక్కడ అలాగే
analyze
అయింది
from this
ఇప్పుడు
image
అక్కడ మన
which
బస్సు
square
నేను
is
ఎక్కే బస్సు
darker,
ఎక్కితే
A
శివాజీ
or
నగర్
B.
కమర్షియల్ స్ట్రీట్కి వెళ్ళిపోవచ్చు ఫ్రీగా ఆటోకి అయితే 300
Can you
అవుతుంది
post the answer here?
మా ఆఫీస్ అక్కడే కదా
Okay, so we'll see. Some of you told A, some of you told B, but both the squares have the same intensity actually. So
నవ్వుతాడు
it's like little
సార్
bit
నవ్వుతాడు
surprising, right?
ఓపెన్ సీక్రెట్
Because
అది
when we uniformly colored bars of the same intensity as the squares are placed across both the squares. So when we
ఇప్పుడు
see
వరకు నేను
that the
వేసిన వాళ్ళు
edges of
ఓడిపోయారు
the bar, see here, when we
నేను
place
3
a
సార్లు
bar
వేసా 3
here,
సార్లు
see
ఓడిపోయి
the
ఇప్పుడు పవన్
edges
కళ్యాణ్ నేను
are
వేయలేదు కాబట్టి నవ్వుతాడు అనుకుంటున్నా
merging with both the squares without showing any variation in the
నేను
color.
వేసి
So
ఫస్ట్ డే
actually it is our
ప్రజారాజ్యం
brain
చేశాను
that
మళ్ళీ
make us
పవన్
believe
కళ్యాణ్
that
చేశాను ఇప్పుడు
square
మూడోసారి
A is darker or square B is lighter. Yeah, because of square it is. Yeah. So the edges is telling you like now when we place a
వేసింది కరెక్ట్ అయితే
ladder or
వేసాను కానీ
something
ఓడిపోయాను
here,
ఫస్ట్
so the
ప్రజారాజ్యం మన
edges is
జనసేన
telling you like now it
ఇప్పుడు
is
టీడీపీకి వేసాను
having the same color. But whenever we are going for this image, our brain is telling us A is darker, B is lighter, like that. So that is the example of human vision, how it is processed. Actually, we will see, but our brain will give some cognitive details and it will be analyzed, interpreted. Now, the other example, how many kids are there in the picture? So we will tell like just one kid looking at his own mirror reflection, correct? So when we look at the things, vision is just not limited to the objects we look at, but our brain also provides involuntary details to get the most out of the image. So when we are seeing the kid, we are just seeing the back side of the image as well as front side of the image. So we are not at all seeing only the face, we are seeing the other image also. So involuntary data might make us believe things that are not true. Now another, here horizontal lines are straight and parallel, but when we look at that one, suddenly we will think like it is slanted or curved. But actually when we are looking very near or in detail, you will come to know the horizontal lines are straight and parallel. Even the other example here, the blue lines, when we are just looking, it will see like the lower blue line is small and the upper blue line is big. But if the same thing, when we both the lines, when we are enclosing it in a parallel lines, you can see both are of same size. So these are different examples how our human brain, it will visualize the object. So this is another example for you. You just try pronouncing the color instead of the word. That means in case of blue, just pronounce it as red because blue is written as red. Then instead of green, pronounce it as yellow. So in the image, if you are able to tell only the color details instead of reading the word, just try it out. So when starting and all, you can read, but it needs little concentration, right? Because the human brain and the vision are interlinked. If you are reading something or if you are seeing that one as one color, your brain will tell like it is another, right?
వెళ్ళిపోండి, నేను ఒక్కదాన్ని ఆనందంగా ఇంట్లో ఉంటానంటది. అది ఆ టైప్, ఎక్కడికి రానంటది.
Yeah. So now you understood what all problems or what all things are involved in the normal human vision system. And we'll see what is the difference between how it will be compared with our computer vision. So here, how complex the working of human vision system is, you already experienced that with all these slides. And similarly, achieving the vision capabilities in a machine is also challenging. See, when we humans can't interpret properly how a machine itself or machine can interpret, so it will be challenging. So we'll see what are the challenges in computer vision. So image is stored as a vector array in the digital form. As you know, each of the image will be in a pixels, that I will tell you in detail later. So image in a computer, it is already stored in as a digital format. It's not other format, it will be in digital format or a vector array. So in the deep learning techniques, we already learned that one and you got some insights about that one. So a very huge data set would be required to train the system to identify the object at various angles or environmental conditions. So as human beings, we know when we, from the childhood onwards, we are learning this is cat, this is dog, like that. So we are getting trained from our elders like how to identify the object. But in case of computers, it's little bit more challenging because they need huge data set or huge examples. Data set means some examples what we are giving for training. So to train the system for identifying various angles or environmental conditions. So time-based decision making, for example, alert has to be generated by a surveillance robot when someone crosses a railway line and a train is approaching. Otherwise, it should be considered normal. In normal case, railway line will be there. So when actually the robot or the surveillance robot should give the alert is when something is happening. So when something is happening, to give the alert, we should train the robot in such a way that when a train is approaching or it is coming, a person is trying to cross the rail. So that is the data set given to alert. Hope you understood that one. So time-based decision making should be done by the computer system by training itself with huge amount of data. So, in case of living objects, the ability to differentiate between whichever living things, non-living things, or statue of the object, or a life-size poster or photo of the object, etc. So, it is challenging for machines to differentiate between them. So, here you can see when we are training the machine, we will give some height, depth, all those things like three-dimensional view, everything, and even it will be challenging when they are trying to analyze a statue or some other objects, whether it because a stationary object, it will find like it is a non-living, but sometimes it can be, if the object is stationary, it will be a living thing. So to identify between living and non-living thing itself is a challenging thing for machines. Then understanding the object with its context. So as humans, when we see this image, what are things you can visualize? Some two kids are there. They are enjoying a stream of water. They are putting some boats in a colorful. Yeah, is the slide changing? Somebody, yeah, slide is changing. So with colorful paper boats on a shiny day or a sunny day. But what the machine will visualize this, or how it will understand the relation between different objects in an image. That means our human brain will visualize many things, but Priti, can you answer this one, like whether the slide is changing, you can see, right?
Yes, the slide is changing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It might, because of the internet connection, it might take a few seconds for you to see this change in the slide.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Priti. So here, when we are visualizing, we will come to know so many details, like it is a sunny day, two people, kids are there, they are playing with in a pond, all those things. But when the image is given for a mission, how they will understand is relation between the objects, like these, the first object, second object, where they are placed, how many objects are there in the image, like that. So we'll go in detail. So image will be given as data. So here, with the advent of big data, so now it's after computing big data. So huge amount of data can be stored. Even the example is your Facebook app. So before we are storing all over the world, people are storing so many photos, so many videos, everything in the Facebook app, and all this is happening with the help of this big data storage. So likewise, high speed data processing techniques are also there. So the big data techniques, industries had started working on retrieving
ఏంటంటే ఆఫర్లు పెడతాయి ₹1000 3-4 ఐటెంలకు
data,
చూసుకుని
images, audios. These are non-textual data, because the textual data is very easy nowadays to process because of the advancement of big data and high-speed data processing techniques. Of images, videos and audios, it's challenging because it's not easy to determine the contents of such data, because each image will vary, each video will vary. or audio can vary. So the content is very difficult to predict. So without the help of manually tag metadata, we need some metadata. What do you mean by metadata? Metadata is data about in order to get out of the visual contents. We need an intelligent system that could be by itself understand the contents. Yeah, data about that. Understand the contents without explicit tagging was required. So we need one intelligent system who can itself just identify what is going on or which object is there
నలుగురమే తిన్నాం
self.
అలా అసలు ఎవరు లెగలేదు
That we need
రోజు ఇదే
such a system for utilizing the non-textual data. Led to the rise of artificial systems enabled with vision capabilities. So computer vision like that, it came into existence because of our need for an intelligent system which can understand the contents without explicit tagging. What is explicit? Using program or using the using some human head, they are tagging, basically doing. But here, computer
కాఫీ టీ లింక్ ఏం తాగదు
vision system will do it because completed with that all the technology to vision as well as to interpret, it will be there in the computer vision technology. So here there are examples: Google image search, Facebook photo tagging. So this is also very it will be you have already experienced that one. Upload the photo in the Facebook, you can tag people. So that is happening because of computer vision technology. Like it will analyze the face. If already the face is tagged by you, before the name will be displayed. Hope you experience that also. Yes. So computer vision aspects of artificial intelligence, building systems with vision capabilities, like how a human is having the vision. So build a system that has the ability to understand the visual contents. We need to train the system. How we will train? We will put some labeled image data. That means we will mark or we will give some image for the data, and that data set will. So we have seen that to train the system, we would require a good quality data set, which includes the image taken from different
సాసు
angles, from different conditions. Everything will
లేచింది
have an impact on me. If the lighting condition is poor, the machine can't detect it later because the picture or the image is taken in a from. So when we the data set should properly given like a labeled image data set with good quality from different angles and with different lighting conditions. So once the system is trained and validated, it can be deployed in real time. The images based on which the system is trained and the images go system when it is put into use undergo various processing techniques. So we can do this one processing technique so that the system is able to extract the accurate information from the image. So the details that is extracted from the image can range from describing the objects present in the image as well as to read the text that is present in the image. Here you can simulate to simulate the human vision system. Various techniques we are using. So computer vision is also an interdisciplinary field, underlying techniques to achieve the vision. Here you can see in the slide like computer vision of image processing. Image processing there before itself just to process an image. When an image is there, it will clear the noises or disturbances of the image and will process, or it will do some processing to give some good data or good image, or even it can do implement something to do some applications. That is another area, that is image processing. But here we are using little bit of image processing, computer vision as well as the machine vision. So machine vision in the sense artificial intelligence vision. So how the computer will do the image processing, and we have come up with various applications. So along with the, in the area of artificial intelligence, we have computer intelligence. In case of robotic control, we have robotic vision, then signal processing, and in physics we have optics, imaging we have smart cameras, and mathematics we have statistics and geometry. Like that it is going on. So this computer vision is an interdisciplinary field which relies on various techniques.
Yeah, I think this answers the question of what metadata is. Data within metadata. For example, if you're talking about a book if you're looking for a particular book on the website or a web page, or what is the author's name, what number of pages does it have, what exactly is it? Is a fictional book or a non-fictional book? Things like that. So this helps you understand the meaning of metadata.
Yeah. Okay, Prithvi. Yeah. Now with computer vision.
Aishwarya, sorry.
So once,
One more topic, the robotic process automation as well. So
I'll go a little fast.
A little faster.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
The same information is present in the link as well. I hope this helps.
Yeah. So once the computer vision is chosen for a problem, we have to define the specific problem, then build or buy the solution. So here the next step is it can build using the machine learning algorithm. So we already know machine learning is a part of AI, and we have you have already learned about deep learning technique, which is a subset of the machine learning. And using this, we will give the input. Then feature will be extracted. In case of machine learning, I'm telling, then it will classify the feature and give you the output. But in case of computer vision, it is little bit detailed thing. That means it is using artificial deep neural network. So neural network already you learned in the last class. So using the neural network, there is a technology known as convolutional neural network. So CNN or convolutional neural network is used for image processing, and here it will feature the image automatically, and it will do various sections, and it will give a clear picture of the predictions for the output. So various concepts and techniques used in computer vision are, so here the main thing is, first we will process the image, that is image processing, then feature detection and matching. So here feature detection also, last class you learned what is feature of a cat and all. So feature detection and matching will be done. Then we'll do the image segmentation, then recognizing the image, after that detecting the image. So image processing is a technique by which images are enhanced to easily understood by the visions. So it will be like smoothing out a region in an image to remove noise, or even sharpening the edge. All those things are done for processing the image or making them ready for doing some actions. That is image processing. So here you can see what we see is this many things like small toys, images, but what computers see will be, instead of images they will see the pixels. So here different number will be there. for each of the image. So here you can see 25, 25 and all. There are no object there, but it is just the grades. But here 99, 80 something is available. So the computer will always see in the digital form any image given to the computer. So the pixel value will be there. So when you are taking any image, there will be a small building block that is known as pixel, and we will say like grayscale image, every pixel will be having some integer. So usually the combination of red, blue, green will be representing any images. So the variation of the or intensity of these three colors will vary, or the range will be from 0 to 255. So it will be varying that one. So image processing is done like this in different thing, like wherever blue is more, blue is less, like that. The intensity of the blue color, green color and red color will identify a particular color. So when you are talking about the video, so what is a video actually? That is also an image. That means video, it will be multiple image frames showing in a fraction of second. So when many images are showing together, we will analyze like, or we will interpret like it is moving, and that is a video actually. So video is also a form of image, and the computer, when the data set is given to the computer to train for analyzing a video, we should give different things. That means multiple images will be given for a fraction of second as a video. Now, techniques in image processing. Here, the first technique is noise reduction, or you can say like super resolution or smoothing. So, whenever you are taking an image, so many disturbances will be there. So, noise factor means some image, the intensity variation, or even some other thing present in the image. All those we should clear that. So, in the first step, the noise reduction is done, or smoothing is done. Smoothing of the image is done. So here there are various techniques used for smoothing. You can just see the first image and the second one. The first one is little light. When we do some noise removal technique, it becomes little bit more visible, or the quality increase. You can see the image itself. So this is the technique used in image processing, that is noise reduction or smoothing. Then we will do the other technique, that is changing color spaces. So we can convert the RGB to CMYK. So CMYK is another set of colors. So we will put more colors in that one, and we will change the make it more brightening. So CMYK is cyan, magenta, yellow and black. So again we are adding the colors, and you can see again the quality is increased. Then geometric transformation is done as the third step of image processing. That means we will scale the image. The size can be reduced, it can be rotated, all those things. So rotation, reflection, translation is done to give the machine more better understanding. We are doing all those things. Then mirroring can also, but here in this case no need of mirroring. In some, if identical things are there, we will go for mirroring also. And even image translation will be done to moving pixels in an image from one position to another. So all these are done in the first step, that is image processing. Then comes the feature extraction. After doing the feature extraction, then comes image segmentation. So image segmentation refers to grouping of pixels in an image. So like the pixels which will form the background sky, which will form the foreground lawn, like that it will identify the segments, and it will group into various segments inside the image. So we have binary segmentation, and it is very simple based on thresholding. So here you can see two images. So we will make a threshold value, for example 100 we will consider as a threshold value, just a value. So pixels having intensity below that one will be we will consider it as black, and the other one we will consider as white. So binary means the name itself you can see 2. So only 2, black and white will be there. We will put a target or the threshold, that is 100. The images falling below 100 pixel. Okay, pixel is the measurement unit. So below 100 it will be black, above white, like that. The other one is, yeah, ma'am, you're correct, ma'am. CNN will be used for image processing. So here, semantic segmentation is there. It will distinguish different layers in the image, like which is higher, like sky, mountain, grass, animals, etc. So that is, these are all different types of segmentation. Then instant segmentation is done by distinguishing each object instant from the other, how far it is from each of the other surrounding objects. So this is the feature detection and matching. So in feature detection, it will denote the attributes that help in target prediction. So this already you know, like a cat picture is there. What all last time deep learning, ma'am already explained that. So that is feature detection and imaging. So if two images are given like this, you can see one is little more colorful and other is not that much this one. But what is the matching thing is these two, the area in the nose, they are of same color, same orientation, something. So that is feature detection and matching, which are from among the set of data or set of images, how to detect the features and get it matched. Then next one is image recognition and detection. So once features are extracted, it can be recognized using our algorithm, because we need, the machine needs some algorithm or technique. So using machine learning algorithms or using convolutional neural network and all, it will be using recognizing and detecting the image. So image recognition refers to identify what is present in the image, and it detection means it will locate where it is present. So always the two terms will be confusing, image object recognition or image recognition and detection. One is just marking or identifying where what is present. The other, it is locating where it is present in the image. So various machine learning algorithms are also used for this recognition and detection. Vanilla-Jones algorithm is very commonly used one. Then Hog and SVM. SVM is support vector machine. Then Hog cascades algorithm. So these algorithms are used. Hog is like histogram of oriented gradient. So these are names of different algorithms used for object recognition and detection. Now we will go through the various tools and platforms. So here you can see various tools are there from various this one companies itself. So here computer vision platform help you to get the end-to-end process. So we have Google Vision AI, and in Infosys we have Nia Vision, that is another computer vision technique, and each of like IBM has developed their own Power AI Vision. So OpenCV is another software used for visual computer vision. So these things you will get to know from these links. You can just go through the link here. You can just type the link in, type the address in the Google, and you can download. Even OpenCV and all are available for free. So you can experience that one. And here various tools and platforms are there. So I will just give you the summary what we are learned. Like you are able to understand the potential or where it is used in the business environment, our computer vision technology, and computer power becomes easy, cheaper, more accessible and portable. We can expect an increasing number of vision applications for businesses in the near future, and it is expected by 2022 the computer vision and hardware market will be reached $48.6 billion. And the basic knowledge on understanding what is computer vision, the concept and techniques you learned using this platform now in this platform. So we'll hand over to Prithvi.
I think more detail on convoluted neural network as we saw in deep learning and with respect to image segmentation or image processing. Just highlight more on your study with respect to CNN. You will get the hang of computer vision
రెడ్ టీ
concept.
షర్ట్
Am I
కూడా
correct, Aishwarya?
ఆరేసాను.
Yeah.
నైట్
Yeah,
డ్రెస్
go through the CNN concepts, which is available here on the platform. Also, you can browse for any CNN concepts. You will learn about denoising and image segmentation and processing and convolution and things like that. So I think we had one session on one of the aspects, which is computer vision. Moving on to another feature of AI, which is robotic process automation. We have all heard of robots, physical robots, but here we talk about software bots, robotic software bots. I think
వచ్చిందా?
moving on to Girija ma'am.
ఆ
Thanks for
ఫోన్లో ఏదో
joining in, ma'am.
అడగడానికి తీశారు.
I hope you are able to unmute yourself.
నువ్వే ముడితే అర్జెంటుగా ఇక్కడ వేసావు.
Girija ma'am, are you there?
Yes, Prithvi. I hope I'm audible now.
పట్టుకెళ్ళి కొంచెం
Yes, you are audible.
Am I clear? Is my voice clear?
పట్టుకెళ్తుందంట వాళ్ళ నాన్నతో. వచ్చేస్తుంది ఇప్పుడు సాయంత్రం
Yes, thanks for
Yes,
the
ma'am.
confirmation.
కొన్ని పట్టుకెళ్ళి
Sure, I'll be a bit louder.
అక్కడ తిను. వచ్చేసింది ఆయిల్.
Yeah. We should get started. I hope that participants, do they need a break or should we get started immediately?
I'll just put the link once more of computer vision on the chat box. Meanwhile, you can just take a quick 2-second break. Don't go out of the system. Just stay tuned here. I'll just put the link of computer vision. This is a 4-hour course. Whatever is being explained by Aishwarya, the PPT that was shared, everything is available here on this link that I have posted on the chat box. You can also type as computer vision. If you cannot access the link directly, you can also type in as computer vision in the search bar and go into Infosys Wingspan content. In the source, you can filter it as Infosys Wingspan content. You will be getting the link for computer vision. I repeat once again, I have posted the link for computer vision, which is available on the platform. It is a 4-hour, 30-minute course, which has an assessment at the end of it. Some of you have already taken the assessment. Good to know that. So continue your study on computer vision. Apart from this particular link, there are many more links as well with respect to the same topic. And please go through with respect to convoluted neural network to have more understanding on the image processing technology. So moving on to Girija ma'am with robotic process automation. This is one of the aspects of AI, how AI can be achieved through automation techniques. It doesn't mean that, if we use automation, we are replacing humans. No, it is not so. We are just driving automation to make the repetitive mundane task more easier and flexible for humans. So over to you, ma'am, for robotic process automation session.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prithvi. Thanks for the nice introduction. Once again, a very good morning to all the participants who have joined for today's session. Today, we'll be dealing with robotic process automation. This doesn't require any programming skills to configure any of the software robots. It is a code-free technology, and any non-technical person can definitely go ahead and set up the bot using the drag and drop features. Okay, so hope all of you are aware of the AI concepts. It is an aspect. RPA is nothing but an aspect of AI. So what's the difference between AI and RPA now? So AI focus on the cognitive task which requires the intelligence. Mainly we use AI for the complex decision making as well as some of the task which requires the analysis to be done. Okay, whereas in case of RPA, it focuses on automatic and manual tasks. See, you might have heard about there are some routine, repetitive tasks, which is very much time consuming, but still we are supposed to do it, right? So for these type of tasks, definitely we can replace human beings by the automation task. That is nothing but by using the software robots. Okay. So hope you're all got the difference between AI and the RPA. So without further delay, we shall discuss what will be the learning outcomes of this RPA and why RPA has been introduced here. So in this particular session, you're going to learn the need for RPA. What's the need for RPA nowadays, and what are the key features? And we identify the process or the task definitely which can be automated with the help of RPA, and we recognize the domains in which RPA can be implemented, and we discuss the business potentials of RPA and various RPA tools and platforms which are currently available in the market. Right? So, before we get into the actual topic, why RPA is required, so let us understand this with some scenarios, with the real-time scenarios that makes your understanding better. So let us concentrate on the scenario 1. Kathy is a BPO executive who handles the process operations in order management process. So what is a daily routine task for her? I'll explain her daily routine. She'll log into the system. She'll going to navigate to the folder, the purchase order folder. She'll open the purchase order with the current date, and she'll copy the order number and she'll update in an Excel. Later, she will share that particular Excel for verification and for approval process to the concerned team or the person. Post the approval, she'll log into the order management system. She logs that Excel data into a web-based form to trigger the next steps in the business process. So all she does every day is she'll come, log into the system, open the purchase order. Again, she'll open as per the date, copy that purchase order in an Excel, send it for verification for approval. Post approval, she'll upload that to a portal where it goes to process the next step. This is her daily routine, right? So moving on to the next scenario. James is a bank executive who handles a credit card portfolio. What is his job? He'll log into the banking system and he'll go to check for the credit card request, which will be logged by the customers. It can be through email, it can be through mobile banking platforms or online or ATM, whatever be the means. Okay, and he'll go to initiate a credit card application. He gathered all the required details from the individuals. Okay, he'll going to do the necessary checks, the background checks, and decide if the individual is eligible for the credit card based on the details that he has been provided. And based on the eligibility, either he'll go to issue and dispatch the new credit card, or he'll go to cancel that request. So this is his job. This is very common in our day-to-day activities, right? Many of them might have already been experienced this. Moving on to the next scenario. Jesse, a BPO executive who is responsible for handling the process operations as part of the customer support process at her office. What is her daily routine? Since it's a BPO, a back-end processing, what happens? We'll log into the mail, check for the complaints logged by the customers, and we're going to segregate which are common issues into different issue categories. Some of them might be not be able to log into the portal. Some of them will be unable to load the portal itself. Issues might be anything. So she'll categorize the issues into different categories, and then for some of the common things, she'll come up with the possible solutions to the customers. And the complex things which she is unable to solve, she's going to raise this concern to the specific category of the team or the respective team to take it to the next level. Okay, this is her routine job. She'll log in, segregate, checks for the complaints, segregate based on the common issues. She'll try to resolve some of the issues by herself. If not, she'll, escalate that to a concerned team or the respective team. This is her daily routine job. Coming to the scenario 4. Meet Mike, an IT support executive. He's responsible for handling the virtual machines issues in the organization. What do you mean by virtual machines? You might have heard about the data centers, right? So very big data center, a very big machine. You might have heard about the VMware products, right? So wherein the very big machines is divided into many virtual machines. Each of these virtual machines run its own applications on the same hardware. Hardware is shared by all the virtual machines. Okay, so for the time being, just understand what you mean by virtual machine. So what is his daily routine is, for every new request, he receives an email with the issue information. Then he logs into a ticketing system, acknowledge and accept the request. And he logs to the VM monitoring applications. He'll log into a particular VM machine for which application is having an issues, and then he'll try to restart the VM from the monitoring applications. Otherwise, we're going to redirect the request to the experts for the issue resolution. This is his daily routine task. Coming to the scenario 5. Emily is a writer who publishes her article into various social groups every day. What she does is, every day she logs into various social groups at a specific time every day, write the headlines, and she write the content of the article, and she will publish the article. Every day she does the same. This everyday task, whatever we have been discussed from all these 5 scenarios, turns to be tiresome, right? And also it will be costly for the organization to manage resources for these daily routine tasks. It's very difficult to manage the resources for these tasks, right? So some of them, if they leave after 1 month or another 1 or 2 months, what will happen? You have to again recruit a new person, train the daily routine task. While training, if you miss something else, what happens? Then the productivity will hamper, right? So what if we introduce robots for these daily tasks, which we have been discussed in all these 5 scenarios? Wouldn't it will going to help for the organization? Yes or no? Right, yes, we can do this. Okay, so this is about the RPA. Some of the daily routine repetitive tasks can definitely be automated. It doesn't require much human interventions to perform these tasks. You might have in daily activities or the daily tasks, you might have seen that IVR, right? So automatically when you call any of the helplines, what happens? It will start recording, it will start routing to a particular department to look into the concerned issue. Okay, what do you think some of the common challenges or the problems faced here? All this process operations which we have seen in the previous examples are repetitive. Hope you all agree. Definitely this process operations performed, these repetitive tasks can be automated. Possibility of the human errors, which reduces the accuracy in the task performed. Operations are so placed due to the manual actions, because a person can do one task at a time. When he is looking into the credit card applications at one, then after 15-20 minutes only, then he can look into the next. Less flexible and non-scalable with high volume tasks. For example, if you are going to get 15 to 20 requests per day, that's fine. If you are going to get 100 to 200 requests per day, definitely it is non-scalable when the humans are performing, and high cost involved in human training and remunerations to perform this repetitive task. And definitely insufficient communications can definitely hinder the productivity as well. And managing data across the systems, it is too risky as well, right? So these are some of the common challenges that we faced when we are going to do this routine task by the humans. So what is the solution now? The effective solution is to handle all these challenges discussed so far, is come up with the automation. Okay, so that's the main reason. In order to get rid of all these challenges or the problems which you have faced, so we can reduce these challenges or the problems by coming up with a solution, what we call it as a automation. So now we'll go ahead with what is robotic process automation. Now we have come to a conclusion that we want to go ahead with automation. So now what is RPA? RPA is nothing but robotic process automation. There's an expansion of this RPA. It is nothing but a technology which uses the software robots to automate repetitive tasks on a computer, which means it is similar to mimicking the human actions. In other words, we can also define this RPA as it's a process of automating the business operations with the help of the software robots in order to reduce the human intervention is called as a RPA. Either of these two definitions suits for this RPA. What I mean by robotic now? Robotic is nothing but an entity. Nothing but an entity which is capable of being programmed by a computer for doing the complex task. It's nothing but a robot. Okay, this task is nothing but just mimic the human action. What do you mean by process? You might have heard about the process, nothing but a sequence of steps. It's lead to a meaningful activity or the task. That is nothing but a process. What do you mean by automation? Making the process or the task operate automatically without human intervention is known as automation. Automation, we can define it as a technique of making the process or the task operate automatically without the human intervention. So robotic is an entity or a robot which is capable of being programmed by a computer. Process is a sequence of steps, okay, to do a certain task. Automation is doing the task automatically without human intervention. So robotic process automation. Okay, so now what is RPA is all about? So now we have understood what is RPA here, right? So RPA, it enables the computer software or the robots to record the human actions or interact with the system just the way that the human beings does, and it represents a virtual workforce that can replicate high volume and repetitive tasks error-free at a faster rate. You might have heard about once you program certain tasks to be automated, machines does 10 times or 100 times more than us, right? See, we take little amount of time, and there are chances that human tendency that we may end up in some human errors, but that definitely can be reduced with the help of making the task automation. And it doesn't integrate or replace the existing technology. Why existing technology? In the sense it doesn't require anything extra to be done. It operates as a presentation layer. The architecture what we are running right now doesn't need to be changed here, because we work at the presentation layer. This is the networking concept. So see, we have OSI 7 layers are there. So we work at the presentation. When we work at the network layer or the other application layer or the other layer, what happens? Requires the technology to be changed. The architecture has to be changed. Whereas in this case, RPA works on the presentation layer. It doesn't require the existing technology to be changed. Okay, non-disruptive manner, and it can operate multi-step tasks across multiple systems to carry out any data-driven or the rule-based process. And RPA bots can either just follow the rules defined by the user, or we can also use the machine learning capabilities or the AI or the ML capabilities to suggest the user with recommendations and generate the meaningful results. So there are advanced version of RPA wherein we use AI and ML techniques along with the RPA. So it will help you to generate particular data or generate certain tasks which will be able to think logically and work. So usually RPA, what does is we have seen in the scenarios where it does a repetitive task. It doesn't require the thinking to be made by the humans, right? Every day log into the system, get into the order management system, put it in an Excel, send it for approval, and then upload it. You need not think about it, what to be done. But there are certain tasks where you're supposed to make the decisions. Even that can also be implemented with the help of AI and ML technologies which can be incorporated in the higher end RPA, right? So to summarize, RPA is all about focuses on automating routine and the manual task, mainly used for repetitive, and definitely the time consuming task can definitely be replaced by the robotic process automation. This is definitely not a replacement for human workers. It's a tool that can be used to augment human capabilities, and definitely it helps you to improve the business efficiency, right? So this is all about RPA. Now, what are the key features of robotic process automation? What are the features? Non-invasive, complexity, easy integration, quick implementations, digital landscape, independence, scalable and flexible, insights and analytics. What are these terms? When you talk about non-invasive, so RPA makes easier to implement and integrate into the existing business process. It doesn't require changes to be involved at the existing applications or the infra. As I clearly explained in the previous slide, it works on the presentation layer. So it will go to work as is, whatever the technology, the architecture, the one which we are into. Next comes to the complexity. RPA is not meant for automating a single business process, right? Or a tool. Definitely, it will scale across the software applications, and it is distributed across multiple systems to resolve the complex process. Okay, and easy integration. It can definitely easily integrate to existing enterprise applications as well as the software systems. And quick implementation. It doesn't take years to implement these type of robotic process automation tasks, but it takes a couple of weeks time frame to get this implementation purposes. And digital landscape independent, which means that it is not affected by changing environment in a digital landscape, which means, for example, screen size may vary on different computers. That doesn't want to stop using this RPA. And websites and icons and buttons, there are various different applications has different things, right? You need not worry about it. So it is flexible enough to use various it's not affected by the changing environment. It's scalable and flexible, which means RPA solutions are easily scalable. For example, in case in the next moment, if you would like to increase more, definitely it is scalable. Today, if there might be 100 requests, tomorrow, if it is more than 100 or 500 requests, it will be able. It is capable enough to take it up, and it is more flexible. And insights and analytics, in the sense that whatever the activities that are performed by robots can definitely logged and interpreted to customized reporting tools. Definitely, we need a report for this one, right? So, as the most visual dashboards are also available on the various tools, wherein we'll be able to get the reports. So, these are some of the key features of robotic process automation. So, just to summarize, it is very easy at the implementation level. It is scalable, it is flexible, and the moreover, quickly can be implemented. There are certain things it doesn't implementation might be difficult. It requires a lot of changes that will not going to happen with the help of RPA. That's the reason in many of the industries this are adopted very quickly. When it comes to the benefits of using the RPA, what are the benefits? You see 24/7 and 365 operational facilities, whereas a person has to work in shifts to support. For IT support guy has to work in shifts to to be operational all the time. Whereas in case of replace that with the robots, definitely it will be working all the time. It enhances customer outcomes. It reduces the business risk. And RPA bots or your AI employees, dramatic reduction in the cost. It doesn't require much cost to be involved. Deployable within a weeks. Easy, quick implementation. Fits for almost all the industries. And better accuracy in lesser time, and easy to implement as well as to learn. It doesn't require any hard time for us to learn, right? It is easily learned, and any person can learn. As I told, it doesn't require any coding coding skills. right? Any normal person can learn this, how to do this, and then quickly can be implemented in the industries. So these are some of the benefits of RPA. So now, let us move to what are the different types of RPA. There are mainly three different types of RPA we call: attended, unattended, and cognitive or hybrid RPA. What do you mean by attended? Attended in the sense that it requires user-initiated automation. For example, imagine a virtual assistant you can activate when needed. Okay, users typically involve the bot to perform certain tasks with an application they are already working in, right? So it is beneficial for the task that requires human oversight, which means only few tasks within that particular thing can be made automated, but the rest has to be taken care by the human beings. For example, Intel, it is a manufacturing company. It does the manufacturing of the chip. So in order for testing purposes, you can automate certain tests to be done, but the rest of the task has to be done by the human beings alone. Okay, so that is known as a attended RPA. The advantage is definitely the handling time. It reduces the time and it improves the customer experience, etc., and it results in the cost savings and all. And the disadvantages, desktop environment can slow down some of the completion times as well. When it talk about unattended RPA, it is also known as a background RPA. This works independently without the human intervention. Human intervention is not at all required for these type of the tasks. Here, the bots are pre-programmed to run at the specific times or triggered by the predefined events, like receiving an email. As soon as you get an email that the report has to be generated, for that you need not require the human intervention to be made for this task to run. Okay, so this type of RPA, we usually prefer to go for the unattended RPA when we have a huge volume of data and a rule-based task that doesn't require the human judgment, such as the data entry, processing invoice, or generating the reports overnight, as I discussed earlier. So the advantage is definitely this can be implemented 24/7. There is no limit on the number of robots that can be used on a single server to implement this, and any number of processes can be made unattended here. So it's not that human intervention is not required here. These are some of the advantages of going ahead with the unattended. Then the next one is the cognitive or the hybrid RPA. One second, I'm just looking for the chat messages. Hope I'm audible. I'm just checking in between.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, thank you so much. So now we have discussed attended and unattended. Now we shall move on to the cognitive or the hybrid RPA. The cognitive or the hybrid, the name itself indicates it's a combination of attended and unattended, offering a more flexible approach in this case, right? And it also, why this hybrid? The name itself indicates combination of both. Unattended doesn't require a human intervention, whereas attended requires a human intervention. So, in order to get this human intervention here, there are certain tasks where we prefer to go with the hybrid RPA. This hybrid is nothing but the latest RPA, where it incorporates the AI and ML technologies and capabilities to perform some of the complex tasks. Okay. So this is an advanced version. As I told, it will be able to handle tasks which requires the cognitive ability. The name itself indicates cognitive RPA is nothing but what? Cognitive ability means nothing but a ability to think, ability to logically think what should be the decision that you have to take. Some of the simple decision making tasks can be done with the help of the cognitive or the hybrid RPA. Okay. Now, Yeah, definitely we'll have a little bit in detail of cognitive RPA in the coming slides. I'll explain during that particular time.
నువ్వు తింటావు ఇదైతే అసలు
Now,
నువ్వైతే కొంచెం తింటావు
what are the components of
నమ్ము
RPA?
కదా
Be it any type of RPA, whether it is an unattended or attended or
ఒక్కతోనే ఉంది నేను
a
తిన్నాను పొద్దున్న
hybrid.
లేకపోతే నీకు
So we have three different components of RPA. One is a developer tools,
స్పూన్ ఇచ్చే
robot controller, and the software. What are all these things? These are nothing but the key components which play a specific roles while automating the process. Okay, so let us I'll explain a little bit about the developer tools. Developer tool is nothing but I can define it as an architecture blueprint. These tools provide the environment for designing and building the automation workflows. Okay, what are the key functionalities that the developer tool does? Be it recording, authoring, testing, and debugging. These are some of the functionalities that the developer tool does. For example, as I told, again, we'll go back to the scenario which we have been discussing earlier, right? The routine task can be recorded, okay, and then that will be a blueprint for us to start getting started with the automation. So capturing some of the user actions while interacting with the applications, this helps you to create the developer tools. It's nothing but, it's like ID, yes, exactly. Right? What are the benefits? It improves accuracy and repeatability as well as the and simplify the development. Now, robot control, the name itself indicates it's a control center, or we call it as a management console. See, think this is a mission control center. There's a central hubs which manages the entire RPA operations. Okay, so what are the key functionalities? It monitors, it manages the user access, robot license, and overall RPA operations are done with the help of this robot controller. Monitoring, it will going to track the performance of the robots in a real time and identifying any issues or the bottlenecks. All these things is handled by the robot control. What are the benefits? It's a centralized control, which means it's a single point of control for all the RPA activities. And performance optimization, which means allows for monitoring and optimizing the robot performance and improve the governance, ensure proper access control and audit trials for all the RPA activities. Now, let us move on to the software robots. We also call it as a bots or the bot runners. So, this is nothing but the digital workforce. These are nothing but the programs, software programs that execute the automation scripts created by the developer tools. Developer tools, as I told, will record the actions, what is supposed to be done to perform certain tasks. So, those actions, whatever we have been recorded, will implement for the software robots. Okay, either you can write the script, for example, email ID creation. We know that as soon as an employee joins in, so what happens, we'll create a email ID for them, company organization email ID that can be automated. For example, at a shot, if 1,000 employees are joined for a company, you need not sit and start creating manually. It is a time consuming process. So what we can do is we can write a script that will generate the email IDs automatically. So that particular things can be done with the help of the software robot. Task execution, data manipulation, and increased efficiency and accuracy is improved, right? So due to the use of the software robots and scalability, as I told, today might be 100, tomorrow it might be 1,000. So it is scalable as well. Easily you can add additional robots to perform certain tasks. So, on the whole, to summarize here, development tools design the automation plan, robot controller, it manages the operation, and the software robots execute the task. There's a planner, it manages the operation, and the last one is the execution part. Execute the task that whatever bit has been planned. So these components working together enable RPA to streamline the workflows and definitely improve the efficiency within the organization. These are all these three components are mandated to perform any of the RPA tasks. So moving on to the business applications of RPA. RPA can be implemented across various industries, like you can see here: banking and financial services, retail, manufacturing, and high-tech and telecom,
సరేనా ఆఫీస్
healthcare, insurance, and the energy and the utilities. You can see what are the tasks that can be automated with the help. For example, in case of banking, like customer activation, fraud transactions can definitely be found. Bill for the verification, background checks can definitely be automated instead of you doing manually. Data validations, report creations, and the data migration. In case of retail, record management, credit reports, month-end reports, customer complaint management can be automated with the help of the retail industry. Manufacturing, ERP automation, data monitoring, product pricing comparisons, right? And in case of healthcare, medical bill processing, insurance data, claiming the insurance, processing insurance claim processing, all these things can be. Patient's registration process can also be automated. For example, appointment, when you want to take an appointment, so definitely that can be automated. IVR can be introduced in that case. High-tech and telecom, service order management as well as quality reporting. In case of energy use, account setup, meter reading validation. And in case of insurance, claim processing, new business, vehicle insurance, whatever might be, those process can definitely be automated. Okay, and moving on to the use case implementation of robotic process automation. Where are the cases where we have already been implemented? RPA in human resource, resume screening and the candidate shortlisting is one such task where we have already been automated in many of the organizations. In case of banking, customer onboarding, supply chain management, inventory management, RP in customer service, AI contact center. You might have already seen helplines, right? In IT service, the password resets. It's already been automated. Now, human intervention is not required to reset any of the individual password or the employee password. So these are some of the use case implementations of the RPA. Now, functional use cases and what is the scope of RPA? So in case of customer service, as we are saying that many tasks can be automated. It doesn't mean that everything can be automated. There are certain limitations for this as well. What is the scope of this RPA? In case of customer service, so billing support, technical and order management can be done. Sales support and retention cannot be automated. You can see here very high, medium, and the low. There are certain tasks where retention definitely cannot be done. Financial planning and analysis cannot be automated. It depends. It requires a thinking capability and decision-making capabilities. So even though if you're going to use AI and ML techniques, that is not that accurate. So that's the reason we usually go ahead with the human interventions for these particular tasks. Root cause analysis to some extent can be done. Order to cash, master data management, procure to play, record to report, root cause analysis, all these things, it is in the order. Sales and fulfillment, pre-sales can be automated. Assurance, fulfillment, inside sales, source to settle and supply chain, this can be a high. This can also be considered for automation. Whereas sales, actual sales, it is only medium. We cannot do 100%. We cannot get the 100% results when you try to automate these tasks. In case of service desk, password reset, access control, application support, and the software request can be automated. Whereas in case of HR, HRM, recruitment, onboarding, payroll, it is automated. Benefits administration, HR help desk, learning and development can be automated. So these are some of the use cases and the scope of this. From the above, what you can inference is automation cannot be implemented across all the functional use cases. There seems to be some limitations here. There are certain limitations here as well. Okay, so this is about the scope of RPA. When it comes to the key design principles of RPA, when you want to what should be considered while you're going to automate certain tasks. So these are the design principles which you have to keep in mind while creating any of the automation task. rule-based, repetitive process, standard input, stable and high volume process. Other than this, if you try to do it definitely in one or the other way, it will not going to help you. What is that? The expectations. It will not going to meet your expectations. So what is this rule-based? In the sense, when you have certain set of actions to be completed, which means step-by-step procedure is clearly mentioned. So for those things, definitely you can suggest to automate the task. Repetitive process, password reset every day. 10 to 12 people in a very small organization, I'm talking about 10 to 12 people wants that particular password reset process. Instead of that, if you try to automate that, that will be good. You can save the human resource there. Standard input, when there is a standard input, that can be, for example, when the application fails, you have to restart the applications. You know what is the application name, you know the restart process, you know the command to restart. There is nothing changed here. The input and the output is almost the same. We know that how the process should be. Then please go for a automation. Stable, it should be stable. If it keeps changing it, you cannot automate. Every time when it is keep changing it, it is difficult to automate that. High volume process, as I told, for lesser volume, it doesn't make sense for us to go ahead with automation. Only when there is a high volume, we prefer to go with the automation process. These are the design principles we have to keep in mind while implementing any of the automation task. So now we understood the key design principles. What are the best practices for RPA? So, which helps you to get when you're going to get any of the projects, what are the best practices to implement automation in that particular project is the process analysis, which means you have to identify the right process for a new project. If you get any new project, you have to analyze it. What can be automated, what cannot be automated. So you have to do the detailed process analysis, and you have to identify the right process which can be automated, which doesn't require the human intervention. Okay, and modular design in the sense that a big process will be there. You break down the process into smaller and reusable modules. So don't make a very big process automation. So what happens in case if there is any break in the chain, definitely the complete output, you'll be losing it. So break down into a smaller chunks and start automating the smaller chunks. So those chunks can be reused as part of the some other process as well. Consistent naming conventions. Try to use the naming conventions same across the entire project. If you start using the different things, definitely there is chances that we may mislead the developer. Sensitive data handling. While handling the data, ensure there is a security in place. Okay, so there are sensitive data in the sense that it might be a password. It is very sensitive, and account names, account numbers are very sensitive, right? These type of things ensure that you handle in a proper way. Security checks should be implemented when handling the sensitive data. Exception handling, which means you build a mechanism wherein you'll be able to handle exceptions, error handling. In case of any issues, try to navigate to a particular task and then handle the exceptions accordingly. Increase workflow readability. Put comments at every stage. So for what particular process, what is the process, what should be the input? For example, when you give the account name, say that you please enter the account name. So any new persons go through the workflow, he should be able to understand the way that the automation has been implemented. So increase the workflow readability. In the documentation is a must. So whatever might be the process that you're going to automate, document it in a right way so that any changes going forward can be easily be implemented. If you don't have a documentation in hand, what happens? You have to go through the entire process once again. Then making changes in between, in the middle, what happens? The complete workflow gets affected. So if you have a proper documentation in place, it is very easy. The process is very clear. So you can make changes only for which it is required. You need not make any changes to the other process which has already been automated, right? So these are some of the best practices which can be followed while implementing RPA in any of the projects. Consistent naming convention. Consistent naming convention in the sense, for example, you are going to automate a task, for example, password reset. So use the name password, use the name username. And what is the task? Okay, fine. Let us go ahead with the credit card. So have a proper naming convention. Use the word credit card. So the debit card, the process might be different. Or if you're using the same convention for credit card as well as for the debit card, use a common name, common variable for both of them. Right? So this naming convention should be standardized. Else it leads to a confusion. It should be similar to the one. It name in the sense it should be name. You cannot use some other variable for it. Okay. So this is about some of the best practices which can be implemented for any of the RPA projects. Now, by following these best practices during the design as well as in the development stage, definitely your RPA implementation would be successful. This will definitely ensure your RPA projects delivers the expected results, be it increased efficiency, accuracy is improved, as well as you'll be able to reduce the cost as well. Okay. Now moving on to the cost benefit analysis for the robotic process automation. What is the cost and cost analysis as well as the benefits? Cost is implementation cost. So you have to think about the cost when you are going to implement any of the RPA projects, right? What is the implementation? What's the amount that you are going to spend? How about the support and the maintenance cost, infrastructure cost, and the RPA environment cost? So you have to think about all these terms. What should be the support in case if you are unable to do certain tasks? What is this kind of support that you have? What should be the maintenance of that particular task, or when you are going to implement any of the things? Okay, so all these things should be considered. Then only you have supposed to implement the automation for any of the RPA projects. What is the benefits? Benefits have been categorized into tangible and non-tangible. So what do you mean by tangible? Tangible benefits of RPA is nothing but directly measurable and translate to a clear financial impact on a business, which means reduce the labor cost. So instead of 10 people working, we'll make only 2 people working. So automatically, drastically, it is reducing and it is measurable. Improved accuracy. This can be seen, increase the throughput and reduce the operational cost as well. So these are some of the tangible benefits that you're going to get in the implementation of RPA. What is the non-tangible benefits? Non-tangible in the sense that even this is also a positive outcomes when you're going to implement automation for certain tasks, but it will not be directly quantifiable in the financial terms, which means definitely it has a very positive outcomes on the business, but not directly reflecting in the financial terms. Employee productivity is increased. So instead of doing a routine task, a person will not going to learn anything. When he is moved out of this routine task and when he is going to involve with other things, definitely the productivity of the employee will be increased, right? So increase the employee productivity, employee morale, and customer satisfaction. These are some of the tangible, non-tangible results or the benefits of the RPA. Directly quantifiable, may not be directly quantifiable, and improved decision making. These are some of the non-tangible benefits. Tangible, directly involved for the financial things, and non-tangible, directly not reflecting in the financial terms. In order to conclude this, RPA offers it offers a combination of both tangible as well as non-tangible benefits. By implementing this, business can achieve significant cost savings if they improve the efficiency, empower the workforce to focus on higher value activities. Instead of doing the routine task, definitely they concentrate on something good things, right? Where they can improve themselves and ultimately leading to a more successful as well as a competitive organization. These are the benefits of implementing RPA in the process. So sorry, I have to move to this slide. So how the evolution of RPA came into picture? RPA just started, later cognitive RPA, and then the hyper automation. This is the evolution of RPA. RPA was very small. Now we see cognitive RPA is the next version, and then hyper automation is the latest version of this RPA. Now, let us learn something little bit in detail of cognitive RPA. This is also known as the intelligent RPA, or we call it as a hybrid RPA. It is an advanced form of RPA. Okay, this incorporates the technologies from AI as well as machine learning. Okay, to automate tasks that require higher level of intelligence than the traditional RPA. As I told, decision making, logical thinking, those things can be implemented with the help of this cognitive RPA. Right? So, learning, reasoning, and self-correction capabilities, handling unstructured data, for example, email, videos, images, these are nothing but unstructured data, decision-making abilities, exception handling, when there is an error in between, that need not stop the automation task. It automatically handles those errors and continue the automation task. So this exception handling capabilities, all these things have been taken care by this cognitive RPA. Okay. So these are some of the features of cognitive RPA. This usually we prefer to go ahead with the more complex scenarios, because for lesser complex, it doesn't make sense to start incorporating the higher end technologies like AI and machine learning, right? It will be costlier for simpler tasks, especially when there is a complex task. Better to go ahead with this, because again, the accuracy, efficiency, and other things would be taken care. Okay. And this type of RPA can be used for a wide range of tasks. This improves enhanced automation capabilities. Reduce human intervention can definitely be reduced with the help of this. And when there is a huge volume of data to be handled, definitely we prefer to go with the cognitive RPA. So overall, what we can define is cognitive RPA is a powerful tool that can extend the capabilities of automation beyond the repetitive task. Okay, so as we have already used AI and ML, so it is expected